There was a chantry priest, it would appear, who had lived in London many a year, so pleasant in his manner and so able, the lady in whose house he sat at table refused to take a farthing's worth of pay for board and clothes, whatever his display, and pocket money was allowed as well. No matter for that, I shall proceed to tell my story of the canon whose intrusion brought this unhappy priest to his confusion. This treacherous canon, then, came in one day, entered the priest's apartment where he lay, and begged him to advance a certain sum, which was to be repaid him, saying, "Come, lend me a mark. It's only for 3 days. I'll pay you on the nail. I'm one who pays. And if I fail you when you come to check, another time just hang me by the neck." This priest proceeded. This priest produced the money on the spot. The canon, after thanking him a lot, took leave of him and went upon his way, and brought his money back the proper day. When it had been paid back, the matters righted, this foolish priest, of course, was quite delighted, and said, "Trust me, I never take offence if someone comes to borrow a few pence or anything I have in my possession, when he's an honest man of good profession, and doesn't break his day if he should owe. To such a man I can never say no." "What!" said the canon, "I not pay when due? That would be something altogether new. My honour is a thing I hope to keep for ever till the moment when I creep into my grave. God send I do indeed. You can trust that as surely as my creed, and I thank God, in good hour be it spoken, no one can say my word was ever broken, for any gold or silver I was lent. I never stole a farthing with intent. Now, sir," he said, "to speak of my concerns, since you are fond of doing kindly turns, and were particularly kind to me, to pay you back the coin of charity, I'll tell you something, if you care to learn, in simple language, how I came to turn my talents toward alchemy and science. Watch. You can place an absolute reliance on seeing me work a miracle ere I go." "What!" said the priest, "can that really be so? Mother of God, I beg you to proceed." "At your commandment, sir, I will indeed," he answered. "God forbid that I should not. Do you see, this thief's kind service was a plot. How true it is, that proffered service stinks. So say the wise, and any one who thinks. I'll verify that, saying in a while, upon this canon, root of fraud and guile, he took a special pleasure and delight, such was his fiendish heart and appetite, for bringing Christian people to destruction. God keep us from his treacherous seduction. This priest had no idea with whom he dealt, and what was coming to him never felt. O foolish priest, O innocent in bliss, should be blinded, and by avarice. O God abandoned, blind in a complete and thoughtless ignorance of the deceit this wily fox is putting into shape. You're in the snare, there will be no escape, and therefore press on to a conclusion that only can refer to your confusion. Unhappy man, I hurry on to volley anathemas upon your witless folly, and on the treachery of that other wretch, as far as my abilities will stretch. You think this canon was my master, eh? Sir host, by Mary of heaven, let me say it was another canon, and not he, 100 times more skilled in trickery. His frauds have cozened people many a time. It dulls my wits to speak of it in rhyme. Whenever I think of them, it brings me a rush of blood. For very shame I have to blush. At any rate, my cheeks begin to glow, though there's no color in them, well I know. My face is tarnished. Fumes of the diverse metals you heard me latterly rehearse have wasted and consumed and turned it yellow. Now take account of this accursed fellow. Sir, he addressed the priest, send out your man for quicksilver as quickly as you can. Let him bring several ounces, 2 or 3, and when he's back I promise you shall see a miracle you never saw before. Certainly, said the priest, he's at the door, it shall be done at once. The man was sent, ready to do his bidding. Off he went, to tell the truth, returned immediately, bringing 3 ounces of the mercury, and gave them to the canon for a start. The canon laid them carefully apart, and sent the servant out again for coal, in order to start work toward his goal. The man came back and brought a scuttleful. This canon then drew forth a crucible out of his bosom, showed it to his dupe. "And now," he said, "be good enough to stoop and measure out an ounce of mercury. This is our instrument, as you can see. Open your hand, now put the mercury in. That's it, and in the name of Christ begin the study of science. Be an alchemist." Few, very few indeed, I would enlist with those who share the secrets of my science. But you shall watch me using this appliance. Do an experiment. I shall reduce or mortify this metal, no abuse of your good faith, before your very eyes. Yes, you shall watch it as it mortifies, and changes into silver just as fine and good as any in your purse or mine, or anywhere else, and just as malleable. If not, call me a liar, and unable to show my face, a subject for your mirth. I have a powder here that cost the earth, and it will make all good, for it's the basis of my power. I'll show you in these cases. Send off your man, tell him to wait outside, and shut the door on him. I won't be spied upon at work, for no one else must see the way we set to work in alchemy. He gave his orders, and the thing was done. The servant was sent packing on a run. The chamber door was bolted with a jerk, and these philosophers got down to work. At the accursed canon's fell desire, the priest then set the thing upon the fire, and grabbed the bellows busily and blew. Into the crucible the canon threw this powder. What it was I cannot tell. Possibly chalk or glass would do as well, or anything else not worth a fly, to hoodwink him, and urged him to look spry, and cover up the crucible with coal. "To demonstrate my love for you, dear soul," the canon said, "in what we're going to do, I'll leave a handling of it all to you." "Oh, thank you," said the priest, who was delighted, and couched the coals just as he was invited. And well he busied himself, this fiendish wretch, this treacherous canon, whom the devil fetch, produced a bit of beechwood charred to coal, in which there had been subtly bored a hole that held an ounce of silver filings, stopped with wax securely, lest a filing dropped. Please understand, this treacherous invention was not made then, but made of long intention. This canon devised it all before, and other dodges too. I'll tell you more hereafter of those other things he brought. For long before he came, he had the thought of tricking him. So he did before they parted. He couldn't wait to skin him, having started. It dulls my wits, I say, to speak of him. Oh, to take vengeance on this treacherous trim liar, if only I knew how. But there, he's slippery. Here and there and everywhere. Now listen, gentlemen, for God's dear love. He took this coal of which I spoke above, and palmed it dexterously, while the priest, still busy, as I said, had nearly ceased, poking, as I have told you, with a prong among the coals. "You're doing it all wrong," the canon said. "Here's how it ought to be, dear chap. I'll fix it. Give the thing to me. Just let me interfere a little. There. St. Giles, I'm sorry for you, I declare. You've got quite hot. Why, man, you're pouring sweat. Here, take this cloth and wipe yourself. You're wet." And while the priest was mopping up his face, the canon took his coal, the damned disgrace, and stuck it in the middle, somewhat higher than was the crucible, and blew the fire till up it flared, and all the coals were red. "And now let's have a drink," the canon said, "and all will be well quite soon, I'll undertake. Sit down. Let's cheer ourselves, for goodness' sake." After a while, this canon's beechen coal burnt up, out came the silver from the hole, into the crucible, and began to run as you'd expect. What else could it have done? Couched well above the flames, it couldn't miss. The priest, alas, knew nothing of all this, thinking the coals were all alike good. The trick of it he had not understood, and when the alchemist saw all was ready, "Rise up," he said, "Sir Priest, beside me, steady. We haven't got a mold, let's take a walk, for we shall need to buy ourselves some chalk, which I can carve, if I may make so bold, into the shape required for a mold. And you must get me out a bowl or pan, with water in it, for I tell you, man, our business here is just about to sprout. And just to disabuse you of all doubt, while you're away, to clear me of suspicion, I shall go with you on your expedition, and stay with you till we return once more." And, to be brief, he then unlocked the door, went out, and shut it, turning to relock it, and off they went. The key was in his pocket. Presently back they came with no delay. Why should I drag my story out all day? He took the chalk, when they got back again, and made a mold of it. Let me explain. Out of his sleeve, I say, he took a rod of silver, pour thy vengeance upon him, God, which weighed an ounce exactly. This he took, watch for the tricks of this accursed crook, and carved his mold to make a perfect fit. For this same silver rod, depend on it, so furtively the priest, you may believe, saw nothing. Then he tucked it up his sleeve, turned to the fire, took out the preparation, and poured it in the mold. With great elation he cast the mold into the water pan when ready, saying to the priest, Poor man, look what we've got. Put in your head and grope, and you will find some silver there, I hope. Hell's devils! What else could have been the stuff? Silver filings are silver right enough. The priest put in his hand and took a scoop, and out he brought the metal with a whoop, thrilled to the veins to see this silver rod. God's blessings on you and the Mother of God, and all his saints preserve you, worthy master, he cried, and may they bring me to disaster, unless you will vouchsafe your kind compliance in teaching me this noble art and science. I'll work for you with all my might and main. Well, said the canon, let me try again. We'll have a second shot. Pay careful heed, and you'll become an expert, and at need can try it in my absence, once you're in the ways of scientific discipline. Let's take another ounce of mercury. This is no time for chattering, said he, and do the same with it, as we have done already with the first, our silver one. The priest then set to business and began to do precisely what this cursed man commanded of him, puffing at the fire, in the mad hope of reaching his desire. Meanwhile the canon, if I need explain, stood readily by to gull the priest again. Dandling to give him countenance in this, a hollow stick observed the artifice, into the end of which an ounce no more of silver filings had been stuffed before, as in the breechwood coal, with wax no doubt, to stop the silver filings falling out. And while the priest was busy at his job, the canon came and touched him with the knob, and with a flourish cast the powder in, just as before. The devil scrape his skin. Hear me, O God, and flay him for this trick, and stirred the crucible with the same stick, primmed in the treacherous way that you have heard. He always was a crook in deed and word. He stirred the coals until the wax began to melt over the flame, as any man, except a fool, of course, would know it must. Out the stick slid all the silver dust, and down into the crucible it fell. What can be better, gentlemen, than well? For when this priest had been deceived again, and taken it for gospel, right as rain, he was so happy that I can't express in words his ecstasy of happiness. He proffered to the canon on the spot, body and soul. Eh, said the canon, what? I have some powers, though I seem poor to some, but let me tell you there is more to come. Do you happen to have some copper here, said he. Yes, said the priest, I think I have, maybe. If not, you'll have to buy some right away. Be off with you, dear sir. Be quick, I say. He went away, and came back with the copper. The canon took it from him, as was proper, and carefully weighed out a measured ounce. My tongue is all too simple to pronounce words that could serve my thoughts or match my feelings about his bloody-minded double-dealings. Friendly he seemed to those he hadn't caught, but was a fiend in what he felt and thought. It wearies me to say how false he was, yet I must try to speak of it, because it may help others beware his treason in time, and truly that's my reason. Within the crucible the canon placed his ounce of copper, set it then in haste among the flames, and cast the powder in, telling the priest to stoop down and begin blowing the fire, and it was all a hoax. He made a mockery of him with his jokes.